Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much. And I'm following a night as well, so I better do a really good job today. Thank you to Vladimir and everyone and the team for inviting me here today. It's a real pleasure. So every single day, I get to put human beings at the center of decision making. And putting human beings at the center of decision making is one of the most important things that we can do as brands and businesses. Whether we work in technology or IT or whatever industry we work in, without humans, we don't have a business. So today, I'm going to talk to you about how you can put humans at the center of experiences. But first of all, I want to ask you all a question. When was the last time you had an extraordinary experience? A really extraordinary experience? For me, it was on the 24th of March this year. I was in Dubai, and I'd gone out to Dubai to see a client. And as a part of that as well, I visited a couple of hotels that were opening in the area, and I decided to tag on a visit to Expo 2020. So for anyone that hasn't heard of Expo 2020 or who has never visited an expo, they are the most incredible things. They are centers of innovation, and they are a place where every country in the world participates, and they produce a pavilion. And within those pavilions, they showcase the latest creativity, technology, culture, food, innovation, everything that's happening within their countries. And I think pavilions is actually probably not a particularly engaging word for them, because you step inside them and you feel like you're transported to a different dimension, to a different country. So I think they're more like portals. You know, you walk into them and then all of a sudden you're immersed in Saudi Arabia or America or wherever you're immersed, but they're just fabulous. And the expo is made up of these intersections. And these intersections are plazas that take you to different parts of the expo. And in the center of the expo, there's this dome called Al Wasl. And in Al Wasl, you've got this amazing 3D projection mapping that appears all over the dome, and it syncs with music, and it's this real like North Star of the expo, and this wonderful point that unites all of these wonderful people and cultures, and then all the crossroads go off from this center. And one day, I'm walking down the road, and this happens. This water feature was called Surreal, and it was 360 degrees. What you see there is one part of it, but it was surrounding you completely. And I remember walking towards it and hearing all this joy and children and adults screaming and seeing all this water splashing. And as I walked towards it, I could feel my heart going, and I could feel this emotion. And I can feel the emotion now. I was overcome with emotion as I walked towards this waterfall. And I thought, why am I feeling this way? And then I walked down, and the waterfall itself actually falls down toward your feet, and it's very cleverly designed, so it syncs with the music, and it syncs with all the different rhythms, and what you see is the water falling over the top, but actually when it gets down to your feet, it moves away from you, so you think you're going to get wet, but you don't. Anyway, it came down to your feet, and we're all splashing and jumping in there, and then there's this Indian lady with her family, and she's there with her husband and her children, and they're playing with glee. And I look at her, and she looks at me, and we kind of smile at each other, and we have one of those moments. And I'm like, I've never met this woman before. We have one of these moments. And then she reaches out, and she grabs my hand, and I grab her hand back. I'm like, this is a stranger. I'm grabbing her hand in this waterfall, and we're jumping like kids, enjoying ourselves in this waterfall. I thought, God, this is just fantastic. And then at night time, the waterfall would illuminate and it would sync again with the music. It was just fascinating. But then I thought to myself, why was this so special? Why was it such a special experience? It sounds pretty normal, I guess, being in a waterfall, jumping around with people. But I realized it was this juxtaposition of what we'd gone through in the pandemic and really realizing how weird isolation was and how strange it felt. And, I'm somebody that lives on my own. And through the pandemic, I actually really enjoyed some of the solace and some of the things that I learned about myself. But I did miss human connection and that human company. So I think going to this experience and being immersed here for the first time, not just with people that I'd seen along the way, because obviously we've been out of the pandemic-ish a little bit by then, but it was the first time where we were in this sort of big crowded experience with all of these cultures from all around the world, and I was just overcome with emotion. It was just, I can't even really do it justice with words, but it was just incredible. I really believe that as human beings, we are living in a time where, as human beings, we have never been more primed for experiences ever. We have lacked something for so long. You know, it's like the kid in the sweet shop and the parent says you can't have the sweets, and they just want the sweets more, right? Because they can't have them. We've been starved of experiences, which means that we crave them more. So here we are now, we're fresh, we're out to the world, we're like, yes, what experiences can I have? And the problem, though, is that the pandemic with it has made us more conscious. It's made us conscious of everything. It's made us conscious of where we spend our money, who we spend our time with, how we spend our time, because we've realized that life is precious and time is precious. And the experiences that we have, we want to make sure that they are worth it. So we're living in this time where we're ready and we're eager for experiences. I mean, look at everyone here today. Everyone's here at a conference. It is wonderful. But then we've got this kind of cautiousness, and we want to spend our money on experiences that are really worth something. And we're seeing that across the hospitality industry in Bodes at the moment. So what we're seeing is people spending more money on more bucket list experiences. So they're not just going for like an average break. They're really, putting into bucket list experiences because they've lacked it. So they're really, really craving it more and spending more money than they ever have. But something else, and it's something that you will have all heard for years and years, attention is depleting. It has been for years and years and years. You only have to scroll social media to see how inundated with content we are, how inundated with choice we are. We are inundated everywhere. And as brands, every single one of us, we're all competing for that attention. It doesn't matter whether you're in IT, in hospitality, whether you're in retail, whatever you're in, we're all competing for that same attention. So I believe that where attention is a currency, your imagination is your biggest commodity, because those brands that dare to do and create extraordinary really capture the attention of the customer, who is way more conscious, they've got way more power, and they're inundated with more choice. Strategically placed Coca-Cola there. So the problem with brands is brand experience, but some brands are really good at it. What I mean by that is that very often, more than often, brands make decisions from a brand perspective. They don't put humans at the center of decision making. And therefore we have what we think is a great experience, but actually for the human, is it a great experience? It tends to be very brand centered, and actually when you look at it, the human isn't really thought about. So today, I'm going to take you through some of the elements that I go through, some of the fundamentals that I go through when I'm thinking about designing experiences, through 7 different worlds that I created, to take you through those worlds so you can understand how you too, whatever industry you're in, can become extraordinary. Their world, that's me sandboarding there in the desert in Dubai, and I strategically cut it at the part just before I fell off, so you wouldn't see that. But their world. So this is your customers. Your customers, your customers, you are consumers, and you're also brands as well. Their world is the most important thing. Every single one of us in this room today have come to this conference from different situations. Every single one of us have had different life experiences, different dining experiences, different hospitality experiences, different conference experiences, which mean that we all come to it from a different place. And when we come to it from a different place and we intersect with the next experience, that's where we create our own meaning with that experience. So we all come to it from a different place. And then we also have situational context. I love this picture. I was like, this is such a good picture to illustrate this. Every single customer comes to your brand from a different starting point. So we very often, as brands, think that a customer comes from the same place. We just imagine that they're all starting their experience with us from the same place. We've got this ideal customer avatar. They all come from this place and they go through this experience with us. But they all come from the same place. You know, this morning, as it happened, my hair went okay this morning, so I was quite happy. If it had not gone okay, I wouldn't have been feeling as comfortable as I am now. You know, there could be somebody in this room here today who got fired. I really hope that's not the case, but somebody could have got fired. Somebody could have got promoted. Somebody could have lost their keys to the car or had a delayed flight. We all come from different situations, which impacts the experience that we have. So what can we do? Because if everybody comes from different starting points, then all we can do is make experience better for each one, but that's a challenge, right? Because everybody's in a different place. So we do that by sliding them up the scale from where they are. So no matter who it is, no matter what situation they come from, whether they come from here or they come from here, we need to bring these guys from here to here and these guys from here to here. And we do that in all manner of ways. There are so many ways, but I'm going to talk to you about 2 of them today because I've got 6 worlds to get through. So the first way that we can do that is by boosting sensory appeal. So working in experience for hospitality and luxury, a lot of that is quite extravagant, and you know, we do it by making nicer smelling flowers, by better lighting, by articulating ourselves better, by making sure that the visuals are better, brighter, bolder, something that really engages the senses. Because when we boost sensory appeal, we automatically lift a person and lift their spirits. If you're not a physical business, and you're not working in the physical sense, we can all do this digitally. We can all do this with our content on social media. You know, we can do this by creating stronger, more impactful content. We can do this if we're producing video by articulating our voices better, by being clearer. The second way that we do it is by breaking the script. And that's what I did this morning. As you noticed, I started my talk off stage. We call that breaking the script because you do something untypical in a typical situation. And the reason for that is to alter how the brain responds. When we do something untypical in a typical situation, it's unexpected. And when something's unexpected, it increases dopamine, which increases surprise, it increases delight, and then all of a sudden, someone is taken from here to here. So, boost sensory appeal, break the script. The second world is the collective world. So, the majority of brands have an ideal customer, or an avatar of a customer, or a target customer group. And they see customers in isolation. They see them as single people, which they are. But they don't see them in relation to the groups around them. They don't see them in relation to their wives, husbands, kids, friendship groups, the people around them. But their experience impacts their experience too. So whether you're having a physical experience with someone in an environment where you're sharing it, or whether you have an experience with a brand as an individual, you very often talk about that. And then those conversations impact the experience that you have in the end. So you might have a great experience, and then you might go and share that experience. Someone might put an element of doubt in your mind, or they might say, well, this is not great, and then all of a sudden the experience has changed. So it's really important that we're delivering so that when people either experience us with somebody else, or when they go and talk about us after, that we can only engineer positive perceptions and positive conversations. The collective world really hit home to me, actually, a few weeks ago. I was in Mallorca, and I was walking down a beautiful marina, a bit like here, and I came across these 2 wonderful people, Harriet and Malcolm. They were mid-80s, and Harriet was wonderful, dressed so beautifully. She'd been in the fashion industry all of her life, and Malcolm had been in the music industry, so they're like these 2 real high flyers that have had these wonderful lives. And we got talking, and they were asking about what I do as a career, and we even started talking about the metaverse. And I said to them, what is the most important thing to you in the experiences that you have? And she turned to me and she said, it's always about him. And it really hit home, and I was like, oh, don't we all want that? Isn't that like lovely? It's always about him. They'd been on yachts, they'd been through the jungle, they'd been through the desert, they'd been everywhere in life, but it didn't matter what it was always about him. So when we're designing experiences and when we're creating our experiences as a brand, if we're thinking about brand experiences rather than thinking about 1, the human, and 2, who they connect with, who do they share it with, then we're really 2 steps too far away already. So I want to give you a great example here of dual experiences. This here that you'll see on the screen, it's one of the most pioneering regenerative tourism projects in the world. This is the Red Sea development in Saudi Arabia. And they are really pioneering in destination design. They've got this 2030 vision, and what they're doing out there is just phenomenal. If you've not seen the project, go and have a look at it. You will be blown away. And they've created these, I call them orbs, and they sit over the sea, and you can see that inside those orbs, I'm hoping you can see that from down there actually, that you can see the swimming pools inside the orb itself. And this forms a part of the resort. But then further on beyond that, you've got a collective area where people can share experiences together. This is really smart because it's designed for the post-pandemic customer. It's designed for the customer that has gone through isolation, like we talked at the beginning, you know, that area of solace, if you want that space to be on your own. But then it's also providing the experiences of being in an area where you can share collective experiences with different people from different cultures. So it's designing for the dual. It provides a space where people can connect together in multiple environments. And I really believe that as brands, we need to be thinking about that, all of us, in our own ways, in our own context. How can we design for the dual, for the individual, for the person that has gone through isolation? Our behaviors have changed forever. And then for that collective as well. It's multi-level design. And then we have the child's world. I love the child's world. And this is literally about the child's vision and the child's vision. So, one of the common things that I find when I work with hospitality brands is that they design for adult eye height, right? So they're designed like for adult eye height. Wherever you go, everything's designed for the adult eye. Apart from they might have a playground or a kids club, but it's designed for the adult eye. The problem with that is that when you don't design for a child's eye height, it impacts adult experience too. So picture the scene. Has everybody got kids? Many people got kids in the audience? Can you show of hands? Yeah, there's lots of people that have got kids. You'll know what I'm saying here. You arrive on holiday, you've got off a plane, you've been on a long flight, you've got the kids in tow, you've got the luggage, you've done your transfer, you've got to your hotel, you've taken everything down, and this is the big moment for hotels. This is the moment where hotels have that ability to create that first impression. They've gone into all this wonderful design, but then the child cries, right? Because nothing is appealing to them. There's nothing appealing to their senses. It's all at adult eye height. They're just looking at like the bottom of the counter and their mum and dad's legs, and then they cry because they're tired. And what happens? A parent picks up their child, but of course they do, because this is the most important thing to them. So every bit of effort that has gone into designing these wonderful experiences in this environment is kind of irrelevant now because something far more important has their attention. So when you fail to design for the child, you also impact the adult experience. How does that relate to us as brands? It relates to us because very often when we're in boardrooms and when we're having conversations, we often see things from one perspective. It's our perspective, our company perspective, our brand perspective. And by seeing things from that one perspective, it limits all of the possibility. It limits all of the conversations and experiences. So if the child's world can teach you anything, if you're in the boardroom having the same conversations with the same people about the same topics, think about the child, because that's what we should be thinking about as brands. And also the child's vision. So how a child sees things. You know, children have this remarkable and wonderful ability to see the world how none of us can, because they've not been tainted by the world and they haven't had the experiences that we've had, and they haven't grown through pain and hurt and upset. They're young and they explore and they see possibility and they dream. We all need to dream a little bit more. We all need to be dreaming a little bit more, because when we dream, that's when we create extraordinary. And it's a real challenge when we're sat in boardrooms. I mean, what's the ROI of dreaming? It's not a conversation that comes up, is it? But it should be a conversation that comes up. Because when we can get away from regular brand conversations and we can step into the shoes of a child, that's when we can start looking at different perspectives and engineering different outcomes. And then we have the wow world. So this is one of the hotel openings that I visited in Dubai. I'm just going to let you watch that for a minute. So as you walked up here, this is the reception area. And in the reception area, you could walk up the stairs, you see the reception there, you could walk up the stairs, and you could create your own vinyl. So you could put on your headphones, and you could create your own vinyl record. It was amazing. It was so different. It wasn't something that I'd seen before, and I've seen a lot of hotels. It was entirely different. It broke the script. It put something unexpected in an expected situation, and it changed things. It made me feel, wow. It altered how my brain responded. I was elated. You know, it was something for me. I visit a lot of hotels. It completely surprised me. Similarly, a couple of years ago, I have an email list. And by surprise, I just said to people, right, and I called out a couple of the names on the list, and I was teaching them about surprise and delight in my newsletter. And I called out a couple of the names on the list, and I said, I want you to send me your addresses. And I sent them all a hamper from Fortnum & Mason's, completely for nothing, just a surprise. They loved it. It brought the lesson home. They loved it because it was different. I'm not saying you have to buy things for people to make them surprised, but we can engineer different experiences. It can be quirks, it can be the way that we speak, it can be humor, it can be really little things that change the way that people perceive things. And then we have the other world. So I know I've touched on the metaverse this morning briefly in the very first talk. You know, there's no denying, we are living in a world of alternate realities. Whether you like it, love it, loathe it, whatever you do, we're living in a world of it. But aside from the metaverse, there is a lot going on, and there is a lot happening in the real world that impacts you as brands. And I'll tell you why it impacts you, because we're all striving for that same attention. So whether you're a solicitors, or you're an IT company, or you're a technology company, or you're an experienced designer like me, we're all vying for the same attention. So in order to get attention, we need to know what's out there, because that's what we're competing with. We're not just competing with the same sector, we're competing with attention. So this example here, this is the Rosewood in London. They've just launched an afternoon NFT. And as a part of this afternoon tea, it's Salvador Dali inspired. There's a QR code on one of the cakes. And that QR code takes you to an auditorium, and it's filled with butterflies in augmented reality. So they're having their afternoon tea in the physical world, and then they're transported through the QR code to the digital world, where they've got all these butterflies flying around them, and it enhances the experience. Customers can also collect their own NFTs as well. There's a limited number of NFTs, so there's a part of it that's gamified as well. So it's really cool. It's a really quirky, unique experience, and yeah, it's awesome. Then we got this. I mean, imagine being at a concert and then this happens. So this is Fish, and this is a concert that they were doing in Madison Garden. And they got drone-operated fish and whales and dolphins going around the auditorium. Imagine being in there listening to the concert and then this happening. This captures attention. And if we go back to the beginning where I said we compare experiences against every experience we've ever had, the standards are raising. So all we can do is raise to join them and beat them and become brilliant in experience, whether that's through product or experience design or service delivery. And then there's things that don't even exist. So this is a CGI-produced wine train. I mean, I want to get on that, don't you? Like, I'm all aboard the wine train. So this CGI wine train was created by an artist, a fascinating artist, but it broke the internet. Because people were like, we want to go to see this wine train. The Transport for Bordeaux had to go onto Twitter to dispel the myth that it was real, because people were booking tickets to go to Bordeaux to go and get on the wine train that didn't exist. If this is permission to play, please take it, because you might be producing similar, standard content. This exists. You're operating in a sphere where this exists. This is your permission slip to play, to be creative. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful world that we're living in. And it's not just metaverse, it's not just virtual reality, it's not just augmented reality. This is happening. This is happening digitally, it's happening in the real world. And then we have the secondary world. I always say to people, design for the human, first-hand, and then the spectator, second-hand. Because our first-hand experiences become somebody else's second-hand experience. So here today, we're all here at the conference, we're all experiencing this first-hand, but how many of you have tweeted, how many of you have shared it out? That becomes someone else's secondary experience, and then those people that are viewing it in a secondary perspective might likely be the attendees for Spark.me next year, right? So whenever you're creating anything, whether it is a physical experience like this beautiful afternoon tea, or that gorgeous hot tub, or whatever it is, or you don't have a physical experience, but you create impeccable service, we want to engineer positive outcomes. And remember, people share their experiences as a part of their own self-image creation as well. So if we want people to share experiences as important to them, we want to make sure that it's really meaningful, it's really impactful, and it really gets through to them so they want to share it with other people. And then we have your world. Your world, my world, all of our worlds. We are all experience designers, all of us. It doesn't matter whether we're in IT, it doesn't matter whether we're in experience like me. First and foremost, we are all experience designers. Secondary comes what we do. Because if we can all stage experiences, that's how we capture attention. That's how we build relationships. That's how we build customers. That's how we build businesses and empires. So, I would love you to open your bags if you haven't. Please be careful though, because I spent some money on the QR codes, and if you like the talk, I'd like you to connect with me on LinkedIn, and they take you to LinkedIn. Now, there's a reason for the bubbles, right? If I am ever lacking inspiration, right, I take myself back to childlike thinking. I have a pot of bubbles on my desk at home, and I will blow the bubbles. So what I want you all to do is to fill the room with bubbles. I can see some coming through already. Amazing. I'm going to get this and film it on my phone. Amazing. This looks amazing. Wow. I can see all these bubbles filling the room. Yay. Come on, everybody. Give it some welly. Brilliant. Oh, it looks so pretty. And you know, these little bubbles, when I blow them, to me, they're impactful and extraordinary experiences that we create at the intersection with human beings. So if you're ever making the same decisions and having the same conversations and doing the same thing, I want you to blow those bubbles and do something extraordinary, because we are all experience designers. Thank you. Wow. Thank you.